that I will put a libertarian in my cabinet and also libertarians in senior posts. Or you can keep going the way you have for the last long decades and get your 3% and meet again, get another 3%.
Imagine you're leading an insurgent political party that has been around for about 40 or 50 years, which has made some gains in the cultural conversation, but has been largely electorally deficient. Imagine you get an opportunity to have a member of your ideology in the cabinet of the next administration. Imagine you get the opportunity to hear possibly the next, and most certainly a former president of the United States, make a commitment to shift the Overton window towards protecting whistleblowers who fight against corruption like Ross Ulbricht and Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. Imagine that person comes to your convention and makes a vow to you to do that.
And if you vote for me on day one, I will commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht.
Imagine you have the ability to make the most substantial political impact you have ever had the ability to make in your entire existence, and instead of embracing that moment and stepping into your destiny, you decide to nominate someone who embodies the worst form of corporate leftism. Not only that, but you also decide to mock, harangue, and heckle the person who could potentially help you deliver these victories, aka Donald Trump. Why?
The libertarians in the White House. And competition is now slowing what will be learning healthcare expenses. Some sign break the try. Terminally ill patients. Free Star Trump! Free Star Trump! Free Star Trump!
Yes, the Libertarian Party has caved to corporate leftism, and their endorsement and their nomination of Chase Oliver, who I will discuss in a moment. And in my opinion, this is going to be a horrifically bad situation that will only have outcomes that continue to make the Libertarian Party an impotent force in American political discourse. But before I discuss all of that, I must say hello everyone, I am Christian Watson. If you guys are new here, I would really love it if you smash the subscribe button, if you would comment on the video, if you would share the video. If you enjoy philosophical commentary on political and social issues, this is your channel. This is the Pensive channel, and together we're going to help make American conversation smarter and better, and we're going to help preserve the Republic. Now, on to the topic. Chase Oliver is the Libertarian presidential nominee for 2024. And Chase Oliver has been panned immediately by commentators for his many positions that are not just morally untenable, but they are just fundamentally ignorant and unfounded. For example, Chase Oliver supports drag queen story hour for little kids. Why?
Why do you think that the drag queens want to read to children?
Because I think that they are performance artists and they want to be able to have different levels of performance art. It's the same reason as why do the Wiggles sing to children? Because they want to have a marketplace to kids.
Chase,
they want to be able to. They want to be
the
able
Wiggles,
to.
The Wiggles is made for children.
I guarantee you, if you act like I said, I went for myself because I was like, why are there people protesting this thing? I want to see what this drag queen story time is myself, and I want to see what it is. And nothing sexual was going on. And I think that is the truth for 99% of this.
Would you take your kids to a drag queen story hour? Or would you drop them off at a drag queen story hour
I don't think that's what happens. Most of the time the parents are right there with the kids, but
I'm asking you, would you drop your kids off at a drag queen story hour and come back an hour later?
I mean, would you drop your kids off at a movie? Yeah.
You see, his argument there is that the drag queen story hour is just like the Wiggles. Now, being a member of Gen Z, I remember the Wiggles, when I was younger watching them, and I don't think the Wiggles were attempting to change my perception of reality to endorse a counterintuitive mode of being, aka believing that gender is fluid and sex is not real. which, by the way, is the stated aim of Drag Queen Story Hour. Drag Queen Story Hour is not simply some innocent game. The website that actually promoted Drag Queen Story Hour and the person who actually helped found Drag Queen Story Hour quite literally said they wanted to see queer representation for kids, and they also wanted to challenge the idea that gender and sex are permanent and that they are instead a performance. Therefore, having a man in drag dress up and perform in front of the kids would help change their perception. That is not innocent. That is devious because it presents a lie as a kind of comical and whimsical thing, therefore allowing impressionable minds to be accepted by it. But the smart people already know this. Thinking people already know this, but apparently Chase Oliver does not. Chase Oliver has stated himself that he wants to have an Ellis Island-style immigration system where there are no immigration restrictions and where borders are open, wide open. Unfortunately, this has been a tenet of a certain faction of libertarians for a very long time. It is an absolutely disastrous policy. Borders are the safeguard between a nation and its potential enemies. Not only that, but borders are a safeguard that allow communities within a nation to be prepared for those who may come in. Not only that, but borders are a distinctive feature of what actually makes a nation a nation. There is a common saying, a nation without borders is not a nation. Well, that's actually kind of true because not only do borders define a nation, borders also allow nations to defend themselves as well. If there are no borders, then you're assuming that your nation is this disembodied force with no geography, no concrete grounding, and therefore anyone and everyone has claim to it. That's the philosophy Chase Oliver represents. Not only that, but Chase Oliver supports puberty blockers for youth who believe they are trans. So he also supports the idea of quote-unquote trans youth. I can keep going on and on and on and on. Chase Oliver has called himself an anti-fascist. Now, as a classical liberal myself, a classical liberal constitutional conservative, I obviously oppose fascism. My intellectual forefathers in the American founding opposed fascism. They opposed authoritarianism. But when you call yourself in this day and age an anti-fascist, what you are really saying is that you identify with a particular insurgent political movement that uses the skin suit of anti-fascism to do illiberal things, to commit violence, to commit to commit speech violations, to commit egregious behaviors in the name of some abstract benevolent good that doesn't actually exist. It's just an attempt to immanentize heaven upon earth, as the great William F. Buckley would say. Chase Oliver identified himself with that movement, and he has also shared posts saying that any attempt by Trump, when he was president, to make Antifa a terrorist organization was unconstitutional and immoral because there is no Antifa organization. But there actually is an Antifa organization. There are several Antifa chapters across America that are a part of what is called the Torch Network. There's the Rose City Antifa, which is the Portland Antifa, there is the Atlanta Antifa. There are all kinds of different Antifas, and these are organizations. Now, they follow this model called leaderless resistance, which actually was taken about by extremist groups in the 90s, where they are decentralized, so there is no one single organization that can be infiltrated and taken down, but they are very much organizations. So Chase Oliver is also an apologist for Antifa. There are just so many different reasons. Well, this is an absolute disaster. Libertarians like Jeremy Kauffman have been defecting in droves to endorse Trump over him. Now, Trump, as I mentioned, as the clip I showed you mentioned, said, you can either get your 3% or you can win. And the problem is this. Here's a more broader philosophical problem here, my friends. A lot of libertarians in the Libertarian Party are adhering solely to purity tests, and their own purity tests have actually defeated them and have allowed them to get co-opted by people, by factions within their own party that are quite impure and seek to preserve the status quo, but in a way that is more amendable to libertarian sensibilities. So it seems revolutionary, but the effect of it is actually impotent to actually changing the current status quo system. The people in power who have an interest in transforming America want open borders. They want mass migration. They want children to be confused about who they are. They want people to have a untenable grasp of reality, to believe everything is relative. And this faction of that party is doing it. Here's the problem, my friends. Political strategy in the absence of principles is hollow and a moral dead end. But principles in the absence of strategy will only produce futile outcomes. The Libertarian Party has the opportunity to influence the next administration, or it had, and by extension the country, to move positively towards moral outcomes. But the zealots within its ranks are a detriment to the philosophy of Americanism by refusing to embrace the opportunity to unify with Trump. And Chase Oliver himself said Trump was an authoritarian, so there's no need to unify. So he just squanders opportunity. The Republic will only survive when those who love it stand up to defend it and put petty differences aside. Now is not the time, my friends, for purity test and factionalism. Now is the time to unite, to unify, like the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists did against the king to form a nation, even though both of those factions had radically different ideas of what the nation should be. They still agreed on the core premise that there was a problem, there was a sickness. The hour is too great and it's too heavy for this. But unfortunately, I think that President Trump is correct. I think he was correct in saying that there is a lot of people in the Libertarian Party that do not want to not only win, but they don't actually want to move the country forward, this is my words now, in a morally positive direction without having somebody who is a mascot for everything they represent. Again, as a constitutional conservative, with classical liberal roots, I'm not a member of the Libertarian Party. I never have been. I never will be. But I'm someone who most certainly believes that liberty and freedom are fundamental political values for anyone that loves America. And I'm also someone that believes the traditions of our country, which is what makes me a conservative, are based off of those things at a foundational level. But I'm also someone who understands that in a world that is imperfect, in a political system that is imperfect, because we have an imperfect system right now, there are many things about our system that I absolutely hate. But in this kind of system, any incremental progress or even monumental progress that may involve compromising not your values, but on the speed of your agenda, because we don't compromise our values, we compromise on some of our agenda points to speed them up. That is going to be necessary to move ahead. But unfortunately, there are people that don't want to do that. And unfortunately, this nomination of Chase Oliver is absolutely disastrous. It will bring no fruit. It is unfortunate that they nominate someone who doesn't even hold, in all honesty, the values that libertarians should worry about, should hold. Because you can't have a society of freedom without having a society of restraint. And someone who believes that it's okay to have social movements that quote-unquote fight fascism by violating property rights and destroying innocent people's reputations. That's not a society of freedom. That's a society of libertinism. To have someone that believes that it's totally okay for kids to be confused about their gender on a social level and for that program to be forced upon them, that's not a society of freedom. That's a society of confusion. Freedom and confusion cannot exist in the same place because freedom is the clarity of mind that comes from knowing about the human condition, but confusion is the darkness that clouds the human mind. It's antithetical, it's ridiculous, and unfortunately, I think that for this election, this is going to be a massive problem going forward for the legitimacy of the Libertarian Party. In my opinion, it is not legitimate whatsoever. It is now a husk of its former self and a tool that the establishment can use to advance its agenda over America. It's a shame, but what do? The best thing we can do right now is for libertarian and liberty-minded people to support the initiatives to go against the dark ages that we have right now and to move towards a better future, even if that means operating in less than ideal circumstances. My friends, if you like this video, like, share, comment, subscribe, do whatever you can so we can get our messages out there. If you want to support me, then you can, of course, support me at any of the links on the comment section down below. My friends, study history, study philosophy, remain morally convicted. Don't be a purist. Commit to your values, but be willing to strategize in a way that may make you uncomfortable. And most importantly, stay pensive. Bye, guys.